Oh, it was...
Well, it starts off saying message.
I'm liking this already.
Message. I was replaying the old Nintendo 64's Glover, and when I beat it, it said, "You win, but you missed some Garibs." So I went back to beat the game again, got all the Garibs, and all it did was, "You win." All they did was remove the "you missed some Garibs" part. No new cuts.
Really?
Yeah. No new cut sane. He says scene, but it's got like an accent mark. No, it's got an accent mark on the E, like going down. So like cutscene. Just some useless cheat codes that you didn't even have enough time to write down during the credits. The game just spat in my face. I was so angry I almost swore off replaying games of my childhood. So my question is, if you know of any games that are just so awful that you would not recommend to anyone, so I can make sure I avoid them.
Final Fantasy III.
No.
Oh.
Seventh Saga, Air Fortress. There we go.
Super Smash Bros. Brawl.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't like it. Again, I think it's just like what we said about the Mario series, where it wouldn't sell if it didn't have Mario and Zelda and Donkey Kong. Yeah. Even though who likes Donkey Kong? Because Donkey Kong hasn't done anything.
When was the last Donkey Kong game? Well, I guess Donkey Kong had Donkey Kong Country.
Yeah, and then Donkey Kong 64, I think, was the last one that anybody paid attention to.
He's also in the Mario Kart games.
Yeah.
They made kind of like saying he's in...
Yeah. They made 2 games for the Game Boy Advance, which weren't very good. It was a control scheme where you were allowed to only control Donkey Kong by pressing the L and R buttons.
Wow.
So that was the gimmick, and they stretched it out into like 2 games. It got like tired after like the first 2 levels.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Didn't he have that like bongo game?
You're right, the Bongo Bash one where... Yeah, that was for the GameCube, and you could buy a bongo controller, but it didn't really work so well.
Really?
What people did to cheat was instead of clapping their hands, they would just snap their hands or just snap their fingers.
Yeah.
So you could get away with that because the controls weren't that tight. So I guess that brings us back to a former question about controls and different controllers.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't always work.
Sometimes.
And Donkey Kong, the bongo game, was a perfect example.
So moving on.
Other games we wouldn't recommend. Moving on. Let's move on.
Here's the next email. Hello, podcasters. I have discussion topics for the podcast.
I wonder who wrote this one.
1. Force Paul to talk about 999. 9 persons, 9 hours, 9 doors. 2. Why are there no games getting a dual release for the DS and 3DS? I remember when a lot of games had a dual release for PS2 and PS3. 3. Are there any RPGs with a good scheme for experience points? It feels like RPGs will either force you to get a ridiculously huge amount of EXP to level up, or they'll have enemies which deal out about 1 EXP per battle. It feels like there should be some sort of middle ground between the 2 extremes. Michael.
Okay.
So this email was sent by Michael.
Okay, well, Michael... I'm totally forgetting his topics already.
Number 1, force Paul to talk about 999.
Yeah, Paul's not here, so I guess we can't force him to do it, but it's an adventure game for the DS, and it's rated M.
For mature.
Yeah, so I think Paul really liked it.
Oh.
I'm not sure if he really liked it. It's one of those games where it like came out in December, and so he didn't get a chance to play it until like January, and then he's like, too bad I didn't play it earlier because then I would have nominated it for like the Game of the Year column.
Yeah.
So it made his top 10 for 2010.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot with a lot of the big name games come out in December or so.
Yeah, for Christmas.
And then you don't really get a chance to play them. And I think some games have unfairly lost the end of year awards just because of that.
Yeah. Why are there no games getting a dual release for the DS and 3DS? Because no one cares about the 3DS.
I get what you did there, Jeddy. That was clever. Yeah, it seems like, I don't know, if there was a dual release for the 3DS and the DS, then I would just buy the DS version and not buy the fancy new system. So I'm pretty sure that's what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Plus, it probably costs more to do a double release, and the stores would probably mix the two of them up.
Yeah.
Although that didn't seem to be a problem with PS2 and PS3 dual releases, so I don't know.
Are there any RPGs with a good scheme for experience points? No.
Nope. I was playing Paper Mario 64 recently,
Yeah.
and it's one of those games where you have to get 100 EXP to level up, but the amount of EXP you get from the enemies depends on what your level is and what level the enemies are.
Yeah.
So when I revisited, say, like the first area, the enemies gave me no EXP whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it's like I'd fight this battle and defeat 2 enemies, and they would still like do damage to me, like 1 thing of damage,
Yeah.
and I
but
get
you're
no
not getting
EXP from them, and it made me upset.
I remember I used to play a lot of Final Fantasy XI, the online game,
Hmm.
and it was the same thing where like how much EXP you got from a battle was based on your level versus their level. And as you got higher in level, it became very easy for a monster that is too weak to even give you any EXP to kill you.
Yeah.
So you lose 10% of your EXP trying to defeat something that would have given you nothing. Brilliant.
I think those games should really consider when we make the GameCola RPG, we will definitely make sure that if that's the EXP scheme, then those random battles with lower enemies would be skipped.
Yeah, like Earthbound.
Yeah. Does that happen in Earthbound?
If an enemy is so weak that like it's pointless to battle them,
Mhm.
it just says, "Oh, you won."